Okay, welcome to quad tutorial number 2. If you don't have a calculator and a marker board, marker in white in front of you right now, go ahead and pause the video, go get it, and come meet me back here. All right, so in our quad pack, we're looking at quadratic equations, and we're trying to isolate x and solve for it. And we already did that in our first tutorial, and now we're looking at some problems that look a little different. This problem right here, this quadratic equation can be solved 2 different ways. I'm going to show you both of those ways, and then you can choose which way makes the most sense to you. The first go-to is to see that we've got something we can distribute, right? This 2 can be distributed to both the x squared, so we can write 2x squared, and it can be distributed to the -1, so 2 times -1 is -2. And we bring down the rest of it. And then it's just kind of a 2-step equation, then plus a little something extra at the end. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the -2 by adding 2 to both sides. We have 2x squared, and we've got 162. And so when we divide both sides by 2, we end up with x squared equals 81. And this brings us back to what we were doing in the first tutorial, where we have something squared, x squared on one side. To get rid of the square, we take the square root of both sides, and when we do that, we have to remember the plus or minus. It looks a little bit cramped there. The square root of x squared is just plain old x, and square root of 81 is 9, but we have to remember both a positive 9 and a -9 will make that come true, right? -9 squared, -9 times -9 is equal to 81. So that's the first way, is doing it more like how we've always solved equations. You ready to see the second way? All right, I'm going to get rid of the first way. The second way is to go, hey, wait a minute. I see this 2, and I see this parenthesis, and there's nothing in between them, right? There's no plus, there's no minus, there's no division sign. And when there's nothing in between 2 things, that implies multiplication. So I can choose to get rid of the 2 right away by dividing both sides by 2. So that ends up with x squared minus 1 equals what? 80. So doing this actually cuts 1 step for us. If it makes sense to you and you like it better, then use it. If you like the other way better, use the other way. We end up in the same place, right, with plus or minus 9. Either way is going to get you the answer. All right, so let's turn to our marker board, and let's do this problem. I'll do it really quickly both ways so that you can compare your work. And what you want to do is put it on pause right now and come back when you're done, hit play, and then see if your work matches with mine. Ready, set, go. Okay, welcome back. The first way would be if you chose to distribute Okay, the second way would be if you decided to divide both sides by 5 right away. Either way, we get the same answer. All right, so let's look at the second one. We notice that we don't have, like the last problem, we don't have anything here. Okay, so that's different. We go straight to that we have a full thing. We have a binomial squared. We have something in parentheses squared. Now, some people will want to do this. Oh, that's x squared plus 4 squared. No, 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 no. When we were doing the polynomial packet, the poly packet, we did distribute that square to both the 2 and the square, right? We did do 4 squared, x squared. But note, here there's a plus. Okay, so we cannot do what I just did. In fact, some of my pre-calc kids still want to do what I just did. No, 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 I'm not doing that. Okay, so when we have something squared, we got to get rid of that square. So what's the opposite of square? Square root. And if I take the square root of both sides, I'm going to put a plus or minus in front of that. So the square root of the quantity x plus 4 squared is just x plus 4. Square root of 49 is 7, but remember a plus or minus. Okay, this is where it gets a little tricky and a little different. We don't have just x is equal to plus or minus 7. We have x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus 7. So we're like, okay, which is it? Is it that x plus 4 equals 7? Or is it that x plus 4 equals negative 7? Well, actually, it's both, right? Either one could happen. So all of a sudden, we just went from one equation into two because we have to take into account for both the positive 7 and the negative 7. So we're going to subtract a 4 from both sides, so x can equal 3. We're going to subtract a 4 from both sides, and x can equal negative 11. So x could either equal 3 or negative 11, and it would work if we plugged it in. If we want to take a second and just plug in 3 and see if it works. If we plug in 3 for x, right, 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 squared is 49. Woo-woo, 3 works. If we wanted to plug in negative 11, we get negative 11 plus 4, which is negative 7. If you put negative 7 squared in your calculator, you get 49. Woo-woo, it works. Now, see, these parentheses are very important. When you're taking a negative number and squaring it, you have to include the parentheses to get the correct answer. If you don't put the parentheses, your calculator is going to give you the incorrect answer. Well, actually, it's going to give you the correct answer for this problem. So please remember, when you're putting negative numbers into your calculator to square them, that you include the parentheses just around the number, then square it. All right, a lot of side things we just did. So let's turn to your marker board and put this on pause and then come back and check your work with me. Okay, welcome back. I'm going to start this by taking the square root of both sides, put my plus or minus there. The square root and the square cancel out, but that leaves me with two things on the right side. X minus 5 can either equal positive 12, or this equation is saying x minus 5 could also equal negative 12. So we're going to go ahead and add 5 to both sides, and we're going to get our two answers. X is 17, or x is what? Negative 7? Sounds good. We plug those in. If we took the time to plug those in, we'd see that they work. All right, so this problem's kind of combining the first two problems, right? We've got this 36 to get rid of before we can take the square root of both sides. And here's the difference between this problem and the first problem we did. We don't have the first option of distributing. We can't. No, 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 we can't. So why can't we? Let's get rid of that mess. We can't distribute because there's a big difference between what we're given and this. Do you see it? This one we could distribute because there's no power here. So remember our order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And the please, the P stands for parentheses and the E stands for exponent. So we've got those two things we need to take care of. We have both parentheses and an exponent. That has to be taken care of before we could ever multiply and distribute. So we're not allowed to just break through the x minus 8. We can't break through that parenthesis. So what can we do? We got to get rid of the 36. So we're going to go ahead, and since 36 and the parenthesis imply that there's multiplication there, we're going to divide both sides by 36. This may leave you saying, hey, wait a minute. If I'm just dividing right away, I'm going to do that method with the first one. You can do either method. It's fine with me. So we're left with x minus 8 squared equals, oh, is that 9? No, is that, I don't even know. How many times is 36 going to 144? I need my calculator. All right, so how about a 4? Let's do a 4. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 3 is 12. Plus a 2. Yay, it's 4. Okay. Now what we're going to do is you had your calculator, so you don't need to do that side work like I did. So now to get rid of this square, we're going to square root both sides. Anytime we take the square root of both sides of the equation, we have to put a plus or minus. So the square root and the square cancel each other out, and we're left with plus or minus 2. Once again, now we have one equation that turns into 2, because either x minus 8 is going to equal 2, or x minus 8 is going to equal negative 2. So we'll go ahead and solve, and we get either x equals 10, or on this side, we get x equals 6. If we took the time to plug both of these back in, we would see that both 10 and 6 work. All right. Let's turn to the marker board, and then I believe, is that our last, whoa, okay, that's our last problem. Go ahead and pause me, and then do the marker board, and then come back and check your work. Ready, set, go. Okay, welcome back. Let's go ahead and get rid of that 3. And divide both sides by 3. We're left with x plus 4 quantity squared, 75 divided by 3. I don't need to do my long division. All right, so now I'm stuck. I can't do anything until I get rid of this square. I have x plus 4, the whole thing being squared. I want to break x plus 4 free so that I can finally get x by itself. So the only way to break it free is to get rid of this square by doing the square root. So we're going to take the square root. If we take it of the left side, we go to take it of the right side. We put a plus or minus in front. We end up with x plus 4 equals plus or minus 5. Once again, which one is it? Does x plus 4 equal positive 5, or does x plus 4 equal negative 5? Both. X plus 4 can equal 5, or x plus 4 can equal negative 5. Both of these equations will give me an answer that works in our original quadratic equation. So we're going to subtract 4, we get x equals 1. Subtract 4, and we get x equals negative 9. These are both answers that work if we were to plug them in to the original equation. All right, so go ahead and keep continuing to do the things in the packet and make progress. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you for tutorial number 3.